and another video from Dave. What's up, YouTube? This is Dave's Had Enough 1.7. This is another video to do with my weekly review, or long-awaited weekly review of Salem, Season 3, Episode 6, Wednesday's Child. And my thoughts on Salem being canceled. Yes, you heard me. And another video from Dave. And yes, unfortunately, you heard me. Salem is canceled. Oh my god, when I heard that, I was fucking like, oh shit. You know, it's always like that. You know, you had Hannibal, awesome show, got canceled on its third season. At least they're finishing it out just like they finished out Hannibal. But it really sucks with, you know, shows like I mentioned, Hannibal and other ones that get canceled. You get into them. Another good show that they brought back and then canceled it was Dallas. You know, they canceled that. It just sucks. I hate when shit like that happens. And the thing that I see what's going to happen with this, you know, they got this first 2 seasons up on Netflix, and this is going to be one of them sleeper hit shows where people are just going to be bored as fuck, seeing everything they could on Netflix, and they're going to be like, oh, let me give Salem a try. Get into it. Fucking learn how fucking amazing the fucking show is. Get to the third season and then find out, you know, when they're thinking, oh, well, the other season must be airing. And they find out it isn't because their fucking stupid asses didn't watch it in the first place. Oh, man, it sucks that this show's ending. It really, when I heard it, I was like, no way. And what was funny, I was actually looking at a YouTube video, and I found out in the fucking comment sections, I should have seen, you know, when I was watching the, you know, the episode 5, and they said, oh, it's going to take its break, and then the final episodes are back, but I didn't catch on it was the final episodes of the series. I thought the season. So, yeah, Salem it's canceled, and it sucks. Hopefully, there will be, you know, something like I said with Netflix, it gains a momentum on there, and they bring it back, because there's so many storylines they can still do. This show has not even reached its peak yet, it don't feel like. It just keeps getting better and better and better every season, like I said in other videos. And I don't even think this show has reached its peak yet. I think there's so much more to explore with this show. And it feels like, you know, if you watched this past episode that I'm going to talk about, I'm sorry, late on the review, just the holidays and everything, and decided to take a little break from my reviews. But if you watch this episode and you look at the storylines that, you know, could have been a possibility for next season, like looking at the whole thing with Haythorne and Mercy, they could have built that up more. Pitchabush, she could have been like a main villain next season. I mean, there's so much stuff they could do, and I know they're going to wrap it all up, and I hope they don't just, they're doing a great job this season. I think it's one of the best seasons, but I hope they don't just wrap shit up where it's kind of stupid. You know what I'm saying? And that's my only thoughts on that, but so far, so good. I really love this episode, just like I loved every other episode of this season, and pretty much every other episode of other seasons. It's just a great show. It keeps raising the bar, like I said. So yeah, sorry for the late review, guys. Just the holidays. I hope you guys had a great New Year's. Everybody was safe. You know, I hope you had a great Christmas and just enjoyed the holidays like I did. They weren't the best holidays, but you know, when you get older, the holidays aren't really what they're cracked up to be. It's more for like, you know, meaning Christmas. You know, that's more for like kids and stuff like that. New Year's, if you like to still party and drink and act like an idiot like I used to, then it's fun. I don't do that too much anymore. But I hope you guys had a safe New Year's, good Christmas, and let's get into this review. Go over key parts of the episode, give you my thoughts and opinion, give it a score, call the review, and be ready for the episode tonight. Now, the whole episode starts off with Anne and Gloriana. Gloriana was the, I believe it was in season 1 or 2, the one whore that Cotton was messing around with that his father pretty much shunned out of Salem. Well, she's back and she's pregnant. We learned that last episode, and Anne's being really nice to her, you know, giving her a fucking place to stay, a bed. She's like, pretty much, I got your back, like, and this girl's just like, pretty much like, more worried about her baby than anything. I don't think she's looking at the big picture. So then it goes from that scene to the whole thing about, oh, and she's keeping her in the secret room, that room where she killed her father and everybody, and all the shit went down. Then it goes into a scene with the Reaper, Mary, and Cotton and Sebastian. And it's really interesting because it shows like this hallway, and you're seeing these hallways, and then you're seeing an eye. And my thoughts of what this whole thing with this little dollhouse is, I think this is like the Reaper's like way to spy on Mary. Because every time you see Mary up to something, you'll see you'll see him looking through the dollhouse, and he's always like spying on her. Well, he's looking through the dollhouse. Then it goes into the whole thing with they're all talking. The Reaper, Mary, Cotton, Sebastian, the Sentinel, and pretty much the Reaper is telling them, telling Mary how her gown is beautiful, and basically thanking Sebastian for doing that. And then he says this little like song that says, "Married on Wednesday, married on Wednesday, bedded on Thursday, sickened on Friday, died on Saturday, and buried on Sunday." And I like that. I thought it was kind of cool how he did that little rhyme song. And he pretty much tells them his plans of the whole Black Sunday. It's and then him and the Sentinel, they get into like an argument because he wants his brothers freed, from hell, and he just thinks that the Reaper, the devil, is just being selfish. He cares more about his brothers, but the Reaper knows that the Sentinel's against them. So you see something like a little feud going on there with them. And, he basically just explains how he has all these plans, like, for Black Sunday, and it's the final 5 days, and he's like, basically everybody else will perish that's not in the Sibley's house, whoever's fortunate to be in the Sibley house. And then it goes from that to John Alden, and he comes back, and the town's all happy he's back, but then they're asking him all these fucking questions of what's going on out there. And then it goes from that to, the whole thing with Haythorne. And then we see, John Diddley, which has a very small part, Marilyn Manson, in this show. I'm hoping he gets some kind of spotlight these next 4 episodes, because he has such a fantastic character. It's like, he's kind of like, he's Sweeney Todd. He's basically, they do a little bit more with him. He's like a medical examiner, too, and he helps patch people up. And he gives them haircuts and slits their throat, after giving them a close shave, and makes them into meat pies. So, like I said, Hawthorne, John Alden, after John Alden comes back, he's wounded. You got Thomas Diddley pretty much patching him up. And then Haythorne comes in there kind of giving him hell. And John Alden's trying to tell him what's going on out there. And Haythorne's not really having it because we know he sided with Mercy. But I thought this was an interesting part with Thomas Diddley. What he does, he goes, anything else I can do for you, our hero? He says, a shave, a haircut, meat pie. And then John Alden leaves, and then he says, Haythorne says, since I'm paying for it, because he puts the bill on the town with Thomas Diddley, he says he ends up taking 2 meat pies. So I think that's interesting. So that's really the only part you see Thomas Diddley in this episode, I believe, that I can think of. Bear with me, I'd seen this episode a little while back, so I'm going from my notes. Alright, then the next thing we got was John Alden and Tituba, because he leaves that place, and then Tituba ends up, basically, bringing him, with her magic and everything. She ends up where she wants him to be. And she's trying to talk, she's telling him that she has a mission for him. She wants him to take out the Sentinel for her deal with the Reaper. And he says basically he ain't doing shit until fucking he sees Mary, which I don't blame him at all. He wants to see Mary. He's been been out fucking almost killed. And, he's wanting to see his bitch. It is what it is, because that's basically all he's he cares about because his son now is fucking the devil. And I don't know, are they planning on trying to get their son back? That's the one thing I wonder. Are they still, you know, wanting to get the devil out of their son, or they don't care about that at this point, just want to save each other? I don't know. Now you have this whole part with Sebastian and the Countess's corpse. Basically him feeding his mother, corpse blood to get answers from her about, how to get with Mary and how to pretty much take out the Reaper. And I think at this point the Countess is just telling him anything he wants to hear just for more blood of Mary to get her ass back together. That's just my thoughts. Then it goes in this whole part with the Reaper and Mary and him basically giving her a dress for Black Sunday. And then all of a sudden the Reaper kind of walks away, and then Mary walks and ends up into the woods with John Alden and Tituba and starts going off on Tituba and saying, you could have got me caught and blah, blah, blah. And she's telling her, oh, no, basically telling her nothing's going to happen. I did it in this amount of time, blah, blah, blah. But I think Mary should catch on something's a little bit more there than how she just knows at that exact time to get, Mary. If you know what I'm saying, that's just me. But yeah, John Alden's in the woods. He ends up coming out. They basically start talking. He tells them about that, the whole thing with the locket that Sebastian basically gave the French, and I think that locket controls the Indians, and whoever has that locket can use the Indians. That's just my thoughts. I wouldn't be surprised if John Alden uses the Indians to fight at the end when he's fighting the Reaper and stuff. That's just a prediction I have. That's me. But Mary ends up Mary and John Alden, they want time alone, kind of shush, Tituba, tell them basically to, pretty much leave them alone. They want to make out and, basically talk about what's going on. He don't want her to go back to the house. She basically tells him her plans with Sebastian, that she's going to basically use Sebastian to basically, find out what he knows. And John Alden, he's like, oh, and he knows how Mary uses people, so he don't want that going down. But that's basically that part. Then you have the whole thing with Cotton and Ann, and Cotton telling Ann basically about Black Sunday. He tells her only 5 days left, and he don't want, basically to lose her and his child. And I thought it was funny, he says this, he says, you're not just my wife, you're my life. Or something like that. I liked how he said that, how it rhymed. And then, basically, then Ann ends up and going checking on Gloriana, because Gloriana overheard Cotton, and she basically tells her that she's just pretty much hearing things, and Cotton's in Boston, so she basically just kind of, pretty much goes in there just to make her calm the fuck down. Then you have this whole thing with Haythorne and Mercy, and Haythorne basically giving her a bath, and basically telling her, how he wants to marry her. And then Mercy says, oh, pretty much she'll go along, she'll marry him, but he basically has to get rid of an obstacle. And the obstacle is Isaac. She wants Isaac the fuck out of the picture, because she knows Isaac's a threat. So, basically after that, you have Isaac and Dorcas. I still can't get over that name, Dorcas. Why of all names did they pick Dorcas for the little girl? I don't know. And basically, she gives him a cake, and they're talking about, he's talking to her about being king of the world, and she's telling him how her mother, taught her how to bake cakes, because he asked her, where did you learn to cook? And then Isaac's basically, she's kind of down that her mother's gone, and he basically gives her inspiration. And then basically they eat more cake. That's basically what goes on in that scene. I don't know. I think there could be a little bit more to Dorcas than we know, but we'll have to wait and see. It's too early to tell at this point. Then you got the whole thing with Anne basically making a potion, and the potion to basically steal a baby. And I think she called it Graveworth. I think that's the last ingredient that she needs. And then she ends up hearing something, and then, basically, I think she hears like a knock at the door, and then she sees like that witch in the window and grabs the knife. So I don't know what's up with that witch. I don't know why that witch is after her. I have no clue. I heard some people, say that could be Dorcas, but I don't get the connection there with Anne and that Dorcas is with Isaac, so it's something going on over there. So I'm sure that if Dorcas is anything of power or anything, she's going to go after Mercy before she would go after Anne. But that's just my thoughts. I heard that on a podcast I watch. Um, but yeah, that went on. She basically looked out the window and saw the witch, then grabbed the knife. Then you have John Alden basically training new soldiers, and I thought this was kind of a really cool part because he tells them, to give them inspiration. He tells them to fight like Tomahawk Billy, and he tells the story of Tomahawk Billy. So I thought that was pretty cool that Billy's going to be like a legend. I thought that was cool. I like how he's like getting the soldiers kind of ready for battle, and he'll do like stuff like that to get them, basically to, get courage to go out and battle. It's actually a smart tactic. Um, so that was pretty cool. Then you have the whole thing with Tituba and John Alden, basically him meeting with her because she held up to her end of the bargain, like he said, and she's basically, trying to steer him in the direction of, pretty much, taking out the Sentinel. She ends up giving him this poison to basically, forge with his knife or his dagger to basically kill the Sentinel, and because he asked her, he's like, "What am I going to do with this poison?" And she's like, "You need to forge that with your dagger, and then that will kill the Sentinel." So that's basically that. Then you have the whole, and it's funny. I think they should be catching on a little bit to what Tituba wants. That she's basically no good. Why should they should look at some of the things she's doing. Like I said, the thing with Mary. Mary should have maybe caught on that because Mary's not a fucking idiot. She may not be a witch no more, but she's not an idiot. Mary usually is one that outsmarts others. So then you have the whole thing with Sebastian and Mary basically needing to talk to him, and he ends up taking her down to where he keeps his mother's corpse, and he basically, they go on this whole conversation, and she wants to know why does he love her, and he tells her that she's basically she's it. She's all for that's all for him. You don't think of nothing else but Mary now at this point, but basically she's going to have to prove herself to him, and I think this is where he basically, tells her, to meet at his chambers at night. She doesn't, she tries to like make out with him there, but he ain't falling for that. He knows that John Alden, still is in his way, but she's trying to make it look like the Reaper and say, oh, John Alden's just basically, her like past love and will always be, she'll always have feelings for John, but he's nothing now, and Sebastian's not fucking dumb. So they had that part that went on. Then it goes from that to the Reaper and Cotton, and I thought this is a part I really liked too, because the Reaper is playing with God again in chess. I thought that was really cool. He tells Cotton a backstory about the whole thing that angels did for God, basically trying to make it look like, God's the bad person and angels had to carry out his orders. That's what basically the Reaper was trying to tell Cotton, basically change his thoughts about how he feels about God. And he tells Cotton that he reminds him of somebody he used to know, like Abraham, Moses, and some carpenter he once knew. And he believes in him, and he is a great soul and has a great destiny, or something along the lines of that. I thought that was interesting. So he likes Cotton, but Cotton's basically his biographer for, what's going to go down. That's why he has Cotton writing everything. So after that, you have the whole thing with Anne and Gloriana, and basically having, Gloriana's having nightmares that something, is after her baby, and Anne basically calming her down, and she says to Gloriana she lacks one more ingredient for the thing that's going to help her with the baby. So then Gloriana basically just calms the fuck down, and she's good there. And then it goes into this whole thing with Haythorn and Isaac, where basically Haythorn goes after Isaac because of what Mercy said, that he's an obstacle in the way. This was the interesting part. He goes after Haythorn, pretty much trying to take him away from being I believe he's the night stick or something, and he tries to just dethrone him of that. But then all the town people that he helped, like that had, basically that Mercy took their dicks from, pretty much stripped them of their manhood. That one guy, one of them, and the rest of them basically stick up for Isaac and basically stand up for him and shoo Haythorn the fuck out of there, and basically throw rotten fruit at him. And he basically decides to, pretty much, go regroup, and then maybe they're gonna have a battle later on, maybe tonight's episode, I don't know. But pretty much the people kneeled to Isaac and made him basically the leader of their little town, and I believe, basically gave him the nightstick. Then you have Anne basically getting the last ingredient, and that witch basically stalking her from the woods. And then when she gets in the house, it's, the witch is banging on the door, that nobody's there. And then she makes her potion, and then all of a sudden she's walking, and then the witch is right behind her, and they went to like a commercial break. Like I said, I don't know what's the deal with that witch. Maybe it's something from her past with her parents that she killed. I don't know. I really don't know. Then you have the whole thing with Anne and Gloriana, and this is the part where basically she undresses, lays with her, and she ends up singing to her, and then while she's singing, you see like the baby basically disappearing from her stomach, which I thought was a really cool scene. I find it interesting. Anne's not the best witch. She, was a good she was a good person at one time, but she's definitely, taking her role of a witch. I'll have to say that. Then you have the whole thing with the Reaper basically watching through the dollhouse, and Mary meeting with Sebastian. Now, this was some fucked up shit, I have to say. She ends up meeting with Sebastian, basically making out with him, and then all of a sudden he ends up he tells her, I think he basically tells her, oh, it's not that easy, and he ends up taking her into basically into the street in front of John Alden's house. And pretty much goes into John Alden's house and basically, pretty much fucks Mary right in front of him. But there's like a little catch to it. He's in a dream, but Sebastian says even though he's in a dream, he still will think that this possibly happened, and he says to Mary, even though I can't change the way you feel about John Alden, I can change the way he feels about you. So that was some fucked up shit, especially fucking the love of John Alden's life right in front of him. Same thing with Mary. She's just doing this basically to get, information on, how to take out the Reaper. So that was some fucked up shit. And then basically, you have the whole thing with, Gloriana waking up, and she sees, Cotton basically holding the baby. And then Cotton gets up and hands the baby like he's handing it to her, and Anne grabs it. And and then she wakes up like it's a bad nightmare. And then all of a sudden, she's like laying next to Anne, and then she notices that her baby bump is gone. And then Anne gets up, basically uses her powers to shut her up, and then fucking pretty much, seals her in the fucking secret room. And that's the end of the episode. I thought it was a pretty damn good episode. Sorry, guys. I haven't seen the episode in a good minute. That was the best I could recap it from my notes, but damn, it was good. The prior weeks I gave, last week I know I gave the episode a 9.4. The week before that I gave it an 8.9. The week before that, 8. I give this one a 9. It was a really good episode. I'm really excited for the final 4 episodes. It sucks it's over. At least they're giving us the ending. I like that. There has been shows in the past, like I mentioned, Dallas, and there's many other shows that they just cut the fuck off. You know, one thing I could say about Hannibal, they, gave us an ending on that. It wasn't a bad ending either. I think this will be a good ending. You know, the writing is fantastic for this show. I think this show deserves a lot more credit than it gets. Hopefully, they leave it open to where they can start it up if another network picks it up. But guys, tell me what you think in the comment section of this episode, Wednesday's Child, episode 6. Are you looking forward to tonight's episode? What did you think of this episode? Tell me in the comment section. More videos to come. Later, YouTube.